What if the people you sacrificed everything for, your time, your peace, your future, turned out to be the ones quietly destroying you? Diana thought she was being a good daughter, the glue holding her fractured family together. But when love turns into leverage and support becomes silent servitude, she's forced to make an impossible choice: continue drowning in obligation or risk everything to reclaim her voice. This is the story of one woman's reckoning, rebirth, and the painful beauty of choosing herself. It started with a silence so thick it could split the air. The kind of silence that follows years of obligation disguised as love, years of giving without receiving, of being everything to everyone, except to yourself. My name is Diana Moreno, and for the past decade, I have been the solution. Not the daughter, not the sister, not even the person who once dreamed of traveling the world with a camera in hand. I had become a problem solver, a fixer, a wallet on legs. That was my role in the Moreno household. My mother, Lucia, used to say with a hand on her chest, "You were born to save us, mi amor." And for a while, I believed her. I paid the bills. When Dad's back gave out and he couldn't do construction anymore. I covered Brandon's community college tuition when he said he wanted to be a chef, and then dropped out 6 months later. I loaned money when the car broke down, when the fridge died, when Mom decided we needed a new set of furniture to impress the neighbor's daughter getting married. There was always something. I worked in finance, freelance ironically, and lived in a small one-bedroom apartment 40 minutes away. I was barely scraping by myself, but somehow, every month, I found a way to make it work for all of us. Until one day I didn't. The breaking point came on an ordinary Tuesday. I had just gotten off a call with a client, last-minute taxes, always chaos, and there was a message from my mom. No hi, no hope you're well. Just, the mortgage is due Friday. Please don't forget. We're counting on you. Something about the tone, the entitlement, lit a fuse in me I hadn't realized was even burning. Not anger, just fatigue. Profound, bone-deep fatigue. So I didn't send the money. For the first time in 10 years, then came the follow-up texts, then the calls. First Mom, then Dad, and finally Brandon, whose idea of contribution was vague promises and passive-aggressive guilt. They were relentless. But I didn't respond. I watched my phone light up with a strange sense of relief. For once, I wasn't rushing to save them. I sat in my apartment staring out the window trying to remember the last time I did something just for me. I couldn't. That night, I wrote a message I never sent. It said, "I'm not a bank. I'm your daughter. I needed you too, and you were never there for me," but I deleted it. Because I knew no words would ever change how they saw me. To them, I was never truly a daughter. I was a resource, a safety net. And when that net stopped stretching, all they had left was blame. Still, even silence can be heavy. A week passed. Then 2. The calls slowed but never stopped. They didn't want to talk. They wanted solutions. But I kept my distance. I needed space to think, to breathe, to remember who I was before I became the answer to everyone else's problems. One afternoon, I got off a Zoom meeting early and decided to take a walk. The sun was setting, painting the city in gold. As I walked past little cafes and bookshops, I felt a strange, fleeting sense of peace. No one here needed anything from me. I could just exist. And then my phone buzzed again. This time it was Dad. "Diana, why haven't you paid the mortgage this month? The bank's pressing us now." I froze in the middle of the sidewalk. It wasn't shocking. It was a chill, like someone had poured a bucket of ice water down my spine. He still thought I was paying. Still assumed it was my job. Still saw me not as a person, but as a lifeline. But something else about that message made my stomach turn. Pressing us now. I bit my lip and stared at the screen. I had stopped sending money 6 months ago, completely. No transfers, no deposits, nothing. Why would the bank just now be pressing them? I slipped my phone into my pocket and headed home. That evening, I brewed myself a cup of tea, sat at my kitchen table, and opened my laptop. I logged into the old joint account, under Dad's name, where I used to transfer the mortgage payments. I never checked it before. I always trusted that they used the money for what they said they needed. The transaction history loaded slowly. My heart beat faster. There it was, payment after payment, clearly labeled. Every transfer I had made for the past 2 years matched the mortgage amount down to the cent. But something was wrong. The last mortgage payment recorded in that account was 8 months ago, right before I stopped helping. I blinked. Refreshed. The page, checked again. 8 months overdue. Total outstanding balance, $6,480. Status, at risk of foreclosure. My hands began to tremble. I opened my banking app. Sure enough, the final 3 months after the last official mortgage payment still included transfers from me. Nearly $3,000 total, gone. Sent to them, but not used for the mortgage. Not even a partial payment. I leaned back in my chair, eyes wide, heart sinking. They lied. They didn't even bother to tell me. Didn't offer an excuse. Just let me believe I was helping keep the house afloat while doing who knows what with the money. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I planned. The next morning, I called the bank, posing as someone who used to help manage the household finances. After verifying some basic information, the support rep confirmed no full mortgage payment had been made in over 8 months. The account was now under special collections. I thanked her, hung up, and sat in silence. No more doubt, no more assumptions. My help had been taken, misused, and hidden from me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the couch, a blanket wrapped around my shoulders, staring at the wall. I thought of every time my mom said, "Just this once," and every time Dad sighed, about being so close to catching up. I thought of Brandon laughing in the background of our calls, carefree and jobless. And then, I thought of the look in Brandon's eyes the day I walked out, the day I said I couldn't help anymore. It wasn't sadness. It was fear. Not fear of losing me. Fear of losing the income stream. I picked up my phone and finally typed the message. I just spoke with the bank. They said the mortgage is 8 months overdue. I kept sending money. So what? Happened? 15 minutes later, the phone rang. Caller ID, Dad. I didn't answer. Not yet. The third call came at 10 p.m. I stared at the screen. My heart raced. My hands were cold. But this time I was ready. Not just to listen, but to speak. I pressed answer. Diana, Dad said, his voice low. Tense. So, I guess you found out about the bank? I kept my voice calm. I didn't just find out, I confirmed it. The mortgage is 8 months behind. I kept sending money. Where did it go? He paused, sighed. I know you're angry, but it's not what you think. I gave a bitter half smile. Not what I think? I sent money for the house. The house wasn't paid for. What part of that isn't what I think? That's when Mom grabbed the phone. Diana. Don't you dare speak to your father like that, she snapped, her voice shrill. You don't understand the situation. Everything's been falling apart since you left. I squinted. Walked away, or stopped paying for everyone to live comfortably. You don't speak to me like that, Mom shouted. I've done everything I could. Brandon lost his job. Your father's back is acting up. The house is falling apart, and you just turned your back on us. No, Mom, I said, voice like ice. I turned my back after you drained every last dollar and still had the nerve to say it wasn't enough. I'm not obligated to fund your mistakes. There was a pause, long and cold. Then her voice changed, trembled, slipped into that rehearsed sobbing I knew too well. Diana, we're family. Families are supposed to help each other. Help has limits, Mom. I've been treated like a free ATM for years. Worse, you lied to me. The money I sent wasn't even used for the house. Another silence. Then Brandon's voice barged in. You're blowing this way out of proportion. They just need a little time. You're acting like the whole world owes you something. I let out a hollow laugh. The world doesn't, but this house does. You're being selfish, he hissed. You weren't like this before. Before? I said softly. Before, I was just stupid. Dad came back on the line. We messed up, okay? But you're all we've got. We'll pay you back, I promise. I laughed again, dry, joyless. How many times have you promised that? Silence. If you don't help, we could lose the house, Dad whispered. We're about to lose everything. I closed my eyes. My chest was heavy, but my words came out clearly. Then lose it. That's not my responsibility anymore. The protests came fast. Mom crying, Brandon yelling, Dad pleading, but I didn't hear them anymore. Their voices were ghosts. Took a deep breath. I'm done helping, not because I'm cruel, because I've done more than enough. It's time you all learn to live without me. And then, for the first time in my life, I hung up. Time and time again, people asked why I never said anything. Why didn't I defend myself? The truth? I didn't send the message. I deleted it. Because I knew no words would ever change how they saw me. To them, I was never a daughter, never a sister. I was a solution. And when the solution stopped working, all they had left for me was blame. I slipped my phone into my pocket and walked down the golden-lit sidewalk, feeling strangely a little lighter. Later that day, just after stepping out of a meeting, my phone buzzed. A message from Dad. Diana, why haven't you paid the mortgage this month? The bank's pressing us now. I froze. Right there in the hallway of my office building. It wasn't a shock I felt. It was cold. Like someone had dumped ice water over my head. I hadn't sent a dime in nearly 6 months. No transfers, no quiet, just helping payments. And still, he messaged me like it was expected, like nothing had changed, like I still owed them. But what chilled me the most was that phrase, they're pressing us now. Us. As if I were still part of that we. My palms started to sweat. My gut twisted. Something didn't feel right. And this time, I wasn't going to guess. I was going to know. That evening, I brewed some tea, opened my laptop, and logged into the joint bank account I used to send the mortgage payments to, the one under Dad's name. I had never checked it before. Why would I? I was their daughter. I trusted them. I scrolled through 2 years of transaction history. Every payment I made, documented, matched to the penny. But then I reached the bottom, and my heart nearly stopped. The last mortgage payment listed was from 8 months ago, 2 months before I stopped sending money. I blinked, refreshed the page, scrolled again. It was right there, clear as day. Account overdue 8 months. Total balance $6,380. Status at risk of foreclosure. I covered my mouth with one hand, trying to calm my breathing. I had sent almost $3,000 after that last payment, and not a single dollar had been used for the mortgage. Where had it gone? I didn't call them. Not yet. I needed proof. The next morning, I phoned the bank directly, pretending to be someone who had previously helped manage family payments. After verifying some details, the support rep confirmed it. No full mortgage payments since the beginning of the year. Special collections had taken over the account. I hung up. No more doubts. The money was never used for what they claimed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling with the lights on, one question circling like a storm. How long have they been lying to me? I thought of the way Mom used to say, "It's only temporary, honey. If it weren't for you, we'd starve. Your dad's so worried. Please help us get through this." And I remembered the fear in Brandon's eyes the day I finally walked away. Not fear of losing me, fear of losing the money. I picked up my phone and typed a message to Dad. I just spoke with the bank. They said the mortgage is 8 months overdue. I kept sending money, so what happened? 15 minutes later, my phone rang. Caller ID. Dad? I didn't answer. The third call came at 10 p.m. This time I picked up. Diana, it's Dad. His voice was low, tense. So I guess you found out about the bank. I didn't just find out, I replied. I confirmed it. The mortgage is 8 months behind. I kept sending money. Where did it go? He sighed. I know you're angry, but it's not what you think. I gave a bitter smile. Not what I think? I sent money for the house. The house wasn't paid for. What part of that isn't what I think? Suddenly, Mom grabbed the phone. Diana, don't you dare talk to your father like that, she screamed. You don't understand the situation. Everything's been falling apart since you left. Left? I snapped. Or when I stopped paying for everyone to live comfortably. You don't speak to me like that, she shouted back. Brandon lost his job. Your father's back is acting up. The house is falling apart. And you just turned your back on us. No, Mom, I said calmly. I turned my back after you drained every last dollar from me, and still had the nerve to say it wasn't enough. She went quiet. Then her voice softened, slipping into that familiar sob. Diana, we're family. Families are supposed to help each other. Help? Has a limit, Mom, and I've been treated like a free ATM for years. Another long pause. Then Brandon's voice cut in. You're blowing this way out of proportion, he snapped. They just need time. You're acting like the whole world owes you something. I laughed coldly. The world doesn't. But this house does. You're being selfish, he hissed. You weren't like this before. Before, I said quietly. I was just stupid. Dad came back on the line. We messed up, okay? But you're all we've got. We'll pay you back. I promise. How? Many times have you promised that? I asked. Another pause. Then, if you don't help, we'll lose the house. I tightened my grip on the phone. My chest ached. But my voice was clear. Then lose it. That's not my responsibility anymore. Diana, you can't what? Can't walk away after carrying everyone else for 10 years? While Brandon sat around judging me? While you called me ungrateful the one time I said no? They all started speaking at once. Begging, crying, pleading. But I wasn't listening anymore. I took a breath. I'm done. Not because I'm cruel, but because I've already done more than enough. Then I hung up, not in anger, in peace. For 3 days, I left my phone off. 3 days of silence, and I had never tasted silence so sweet. The third night of silence ended with the first night of clarity. Diana sat at her kitchen table, papers spread across the surface like a battlefield. Bank statements, email printouts, call logs. It was quiet outside. Even the humming traffic of the city seemed to pause, waiting for her to decide what came next. It wasn't just the money. It wasn't even the mortgage. What had fractured her beyond repair was the realization that love in her family had always been transactional. She wasn't a daughter. They never treated her like one. She had been a resource. And like any resource, once depleted, she was discarded, blamed, and shamed. A soft buzz interrupted her thoughts. A message. From Brandon. Come home, Diana. Let's talk. She stared at the screen, her heart still, then typed, talk about what? No reply. The invitation was empty, she knew. Just enough to say they tried. A week passed, then 2. Spring edged in quietly. The cold lifted. Diana began waking up earlier. Her coffee tasted richer. The small apartment, once just a place to rest, now felt like a place to grow. She went to work, met clients, and laughed at small things. Things she had stopped noticing over the years. But healing isn't linear. One Friday evening, she came home to a small brown envelope slipped under her door. It was from her parents' address. Her chest tightened. For a moment, she thought of not opening it. But curiosity is a cruel whisper. Inside, a single sheet of paper. House gone. We're moving in with Brandon's girlfriend's family. No choice. Hope you're happy now. Mom. No salutation, no warmth, just blame. Even now. Diana sat on the floor for a long time. The envelope crumpled between her fingers. She didn't cry. There were no tears left for people who only reached for her out of need. Instead, she pulled out a blank journal, and wrote one line: "I am allowed to be free." 2 months later, Diana found herself in a cafe on the other side of town. She was meeting Clara, a woman she'd once helped during a financial literacy workshop. Clara now ran a nonprofit that supported adult women learning to regain financial control after family dependency or emotional manipulation. Clara had reached out to her with an offer. "Would you be willing to speak at our next event?" Diana hesitated. Speak? Share? Let strangers into her most personal pain? But something inside her said yes. That evening, she stood at the podium, heart pounding. A soft light framed the room. Dozens of women filled the chairs before her, some smiling, others staring with a quiet desperation she recognized instantly. She cleared her throat. "I'm Diana," she began, voice steady but soft. "For nearly a decade, I gave everything to my family. Money, time, peace. I thought that made me good. I thought it made me worthy." She paused. But what I didn't realize was that I was dying quietly, from the inside. Until I said no, and that no saved my life. For the first time, she didn't feel ashamed. Her story wasn't a weakness. It was power. Weeks passed. The silence from her family remained. Not cold anymore, just distant, irrelevant. She heard through old neighbors that Brandon had moved again. Her parents were still couch surfing. The house was sold, stripped, and forgotten. And she? She was building. She moved into a newer apartment, small but bright, overlooking a community garden. She adopted a rescue cat and named him Solace. Her firm promoted her to partner, and at night, when the doubts still whispered, she would sit on her balcony and whisper back, "You did what you had to. You saved yourself." One quiet Sunday morning, her phone rang. Dad. She stared at the name. The phone rang, then rang again. Finally, it went to voicemail. She opened the message an hour later. "I just wanted to say, I understand now. I'm sorry. No follow-up. No demands, just that. It didn't fix everything, but it didn't need to." Diana smiled, closed the message, and returned to her book. The sun warmed her lap, and her cat curled at her feet. Not every story ends with reconciliation. Not every wound needs an apology to heal. Diana's journey was never about them changing. It was about her choosing peace over obligation, choosing self-respect over guilt. And in that choice, she didn't just survive, she bloomed. If you've ever been the one to carry everyone else while losing yourself, know this. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And sometimes, letting go is the only way to hold on to who you are.